What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I wanted to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. And break down what the news is saying about the markets, what the news is saying about Tesla, what you should be watching for in terms of economic data. And all of this could affect Tesla, SPY, and all these tickers. I'm also going to call out some important levels for these stocks. But before I begin the devil's information, before I give you guys a pre-market update video for Tesla and the market, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks. The offer ends very soon. Anyways, now let's break down what's going on with the market. Looking at Tesla, we're actually doing very, very well right now. Tesla's attempting to bounce and push up very nicely. In my video from yesterday, I mentioned that I'm seeing a bounce coming for Tesla and the markets. And if you actually look at the market right now, SPY is up 0.39%. It's actually very close to 474 with a very, very nice pre-market pump. Tesla's up 1.36%, approaching 218 right now, trying to push up higher, looking kind of bullish. Neo got a bounce, the QQQ got a bounce, Nvidia is pushing. Apple got a big push to the upside as expected, as predicted yesterday, right? I went over this yesterday, and this is what is panning out as the indicators were correct this time around. Now the question is, will this bounce last? Is Tesla going to continue pushing, or is Tesla going to collapse? I'm going to give you guys my opinion over the next couple of minutes. Let's first talk about some data and such before I break this down. So we had Bostic from the Fed giving a speech this morning. Then after that, we had some important jobs numbers that came out. Initial jobless claims was below expectations. Continuing jobless claims was also a little bit below, but very close to expectations. Overall, I'd say that the jobs report was still relatively strong, and the market is still responding quite positively to it. On top of this, I just want to mention that there's not much data coming out later on, but at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Bostic from the Fed giving a speech. We also have the 4-week and the 8-week bill auctions coming out at 11:30 a.m. Around noon, we have the 15-year and 30-year mortgage rates coming out, which is very minor data. Then we have Bostic giving another speech. So we have a bunch of speeches by Bostic and some very minor data at 11:30 a.m. So watch for some volatility at that time, Eastern Standard Time. Now, we also have some big news coming out for the markets, especially involving big tech. So first and foremost, the U.S. economy is basically, we at least the market, I'm not going to say the economy, but more like the market was preparing for a rate cut in March, but now that hope is kind of dwindling thanks to what the Fed has been saying. But we'll see what happens for the later months, at least for the time being. On top of this, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, Jamie Dimon, he basically came out and said that he thinks that it's a mistake to think that everything's quote unquote hunky dory, meaning that there's still very powerful forces that could still affect the overall markets. He said it's very important to look at what's happening in the Red Sea and not to become too comfortable. And I do agree with him on that case because we shouldn't be too comfortable right now. We have to be prepared for the worst, if anything, especially as shipping supply chains are being disrupted by what's happening at the Red Sea and also because of potential things that could lead to higher inflation. Google's going to be cutting more jobs, according to their CEO Sundar Pichai. He basically said that, and he's mentioned that they may have to eliminate 12,000 jobs, basically, or 6% of its full-time workforce. This is amidst the things going on with the economy and other things that are hurting them. Apple has some good news. It found a way around a possible ban on the sale of its latest watch models in the USA, and it's going to remove blood oxygen readings from the versions of its Apple Watch Series 9 and Ultra 2, which will start to go on sale on Thursday, which is great news for them. This is bullish for Apple. This is part of why Apple is bouncing so nicely. There's also some news that Sheryl Sandberg is going to be leaving Meta's board. She was very important for their growth and their rise to dominance, so that's important too. So a lot of news involving big tech. What about for earnings? We had some pieces of news coming out for them. Basically, the Texas Capital Bank shares, they actually missed on EPS and they also missed on revenue with kind of weak guidance, but TSMC beat on profit and revenue expectations with strong guidance as well. This is very important for this Taiwanese semiconductor manufacturing company. They beat on EPS and revenue. They also have strong guidance, bullish for them so far. As far as Tesla goes, Tesla is announced that it might be opening a Greenville county distribution facility, important for logistics and such, which is very, very important. It's actually one of their first major investments in operations in South Carolina, putting them all over the world, all over the US, and this is going to be important for them. So, good news for Tesla. Also, there's some news that came out that Tesla is showcasing the Cybertruck in China during its Chinese tour. And this is important for them because with the Cybertruck launching there, this will be big for them, especially if they start getting a lot of sales there. China's a massive, massive market. So this is nothing but good news, at least for Tesla. So that being said, guys, I went over the majority of the pieces of news. Now let's break down these charts. Tesla's holding very, very nicely above this support at 217.6, which is where we had the breakout area. We have this resistance approaching this 219 area. Then we also have 220. If we break above that, there's 222.5, 223.5, and then 225 is resistance. If we break 225, we can start pushing closer to about 229. For support, you're going to be watching 217.6. If we lose this, you're going to be watching for the next level in this 215 area. 213.8, 212 is critical support. We have to hold above that, and so far Tesla has done that. Watch these levels just to be safe. Now, what is Tesla doing? As you can see, we had this nice little bounce that came. We're actually making higher highs and higher lows. We're trying to push up higher. We haven't fully filled this gap yet, so there's a very good chance Tesla's going to try to push higher to 220. And I think that we're going to be watching 220 because that's the 4-hour. If you look at the 4-hour time frame, that's the 20 EMA at 220 exactly. So we're going to be watching to see how Tesla reacts to that. I think it's going to be testing that very soon, and we'll see if this breaks. If we do break this, it's going to push even more. But if anything, Tesla hit this 212 area. It started to push a little bit. I called a bounce was coming, and we got the bounce. It's bouncing as I speak right now, right? I called this move. It's holding up nicely. It's attempting to push higher. The trend favors the bulls for now, and we'll just have to double check just to be safe. So watch the levels just to be safe, guys. Always be prepared for the bullish and bearish cases, but just know from a technical standpoint, Tesla looks bullish, is pushing very nicely, and it looks like it might try to get up to at least 220. If we break above the 4-hour 20 EMA at 220, we're going to be pushing even more. Overall, it favors the bulls. On SPY is pushing very nicely. I called that if SPY breaks 473, we're going to look for a move to fill this gap at 475. I said that exactly, those exact words yesterday. We had this liquidity grab right here, so this gave us some hints that this was going to happen. And look, in the pre-market, we already made this bullish move. SPY is currently at 474.5, looking bullish right now. So watch support at 474. I want to first call that out. If that fails us, just 473 to 472.9, 472.3, 471.25, and then 470. Resistance, you're going to be watching basically around 475, 475.5, which is very minor. 476, 477. If we get above 477, our next target is the 478 area. Break 478, we're going to be pushing for 480. So what is SPY doing? If you look at this, we made a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. It's uptrending. This is a clear uptrend. It's continuing to push higher. We got a nice bounce in the pre-market exactly as predicted. I predicted that this thing would bounce. That's exactly what happened, guys. What's helping this bounce is Aapl. I'm going to show you Aapl in just a few seconds. But right now, this is holding up very nicely. This is favoring the bulls a bit more. I always like to watch supports just to be safe, but this is looking like it's going to try to push even higher towards these previous levels in the 476 plus area. I do anticipate some upside for the next couple of days based off the trend so far, but just to be safe, make sure you watch your resistance levels and see if you can try to break. This trend favors the bulls though, so be very, very open-minded. What's helping what's helping SPY, push up in the whole market is also Aapl. I announced the bullish news on Aapl as they found ways around some regulations to sell their Apple watches, and Apple's bouncing. I called a bounce on Aapl. I told you that if Aapl broke 183.5, watch for a push to at least 185 to fill this gap. We didn't just do that, we actually smashed that and hit 187.25. So here are the levels on Aapl. Watch resistance at 187.25. If that breaks, well, it's 187 to 187.25, the entire range of resistance. So I think it would be best if I kind of like redraw this actually. Let me just redraw this just for safety. So we have this entire zone of resistance. I like to have these zones so that you could see that we have resistance whether we touch the bottom or the top of this rectangle. If we break 187.25, our next target is 188. If that breaks, there's 189.25 followed by 190. For support, you're going to be watching 186.5. If we lose that, our next target is going to be 185.5, 185, and then 184.25. And 183.2 183.5, excuse me, is going to be critical support on this thing. We have to try to hold above that, but we're actually well above that, so it's looking pretty strong. With this big bar and the fact that it's pushing, this is favoring the bulls, right? Generally, when you get these big bars and we start pushing, we tend to go higher. We get a big bar here, we start pushing higher. So it looks like it may attempt to go higher, but I'm going to be watching critical resistance at 188. That's going to be kind of tough to beat. So this is going to be, excuse me, this is going to be one of the most important levels right here, this 188 area. Let's see if Aapl can try to push higher to break that. The trend favors the bulls, so this is helping Aapl. Apple's helping basically spy in the QQQ very, very nicely in the market. This is part of why the market is pumping. QQQ is pumping very nicely, exactly as predicted. I told you that if the QQQ breaks the resistance right here, we're going to be looking for it to return to the 410 to 411 area. I called the level exactly. That's exactly where the QQQ has already gone to. Watch support at 410. If that fails us, there's technically 408 is the next critical support. Then we have 405.7 to 406, then 404 below that. Those are some support levels. For resistance, make sure you're watching 411. If we get above the 411s, we have some minor resistance around 411.6 to 412. Then we have 413, 414. Overall, I would say that this is looking bullish. Why do I say that? Very simply because we made this high right here. We made a higher low. We made this high, higher low, another higher high, higher low, trying to push up. It's uptrending. Textbook definition uptrend right there. We're also trying to break these highs up here. So it's very tight resistance in the 411s. Let's see how this thing reacts because 411 is kind of tight. It might struggle for a bit to break this, but we might eventually break it. The trend favors the bulls. So let's see if we can break that and push it into the 412s. Overall, the trend is looking bullish, but watch the 411 area for tight resistance. Overall, the QQQ is favoring the bulls. On Nvda, I predicted Nvda would hit around 570. I predicted it would reach that, and we actually reached 572 already. It actually went even higher than what I was expecting. So once again, Nvidia is just a rocket continuing to push. I predicted it would basically break these highs, and that's what happened right here. Nvidia, we have this 570 resistance. If this breaks, watch 572 and 575. These are all potential levels to watch for. Watch 575 as resistance, 577, 580, then 582 as resistance levels. For support, make sure you watch 572, 570, 568, 565, and then 562, followed by the gap down to 560. If we lose 565, we turn a little bit bearish and we have a gap to fill below. As long as we hold above that, we're going to be fine. As long as we hold above 570, we're fine. So tracing a bit, watch and see how it reacts to 572 and also around 570. Could chop around a bit, but we're going to be watching to see if we can push higher above 575. If we do end up breaking that high, then we could be looking for even more upside. In my opinion, Nvidia is technically favoring the bulls, making this very strong push to the upside. It could retrace just a little bit. We'll see if it establishes a higher low and then starts pushing back up higher. The trend is still strong on Nvidia. It's still holding up very nicely. So watch your levels just to be safe and just let this thing, watch support on it just to be safe. You can even draw out like a Fibonacci retracement chart on your own if you want, just to see where the 0.618 retracement happens to be. But the trend is still favoring the bulls on Nvidia. That's what's helping SPY and the QQQ especially. Apple's also helping, so we're going to be watching these levels. So that being said, guys, that's it for the video. As far as Tesla goes, Tesla's been holding up very nicely. Let's see how it holds support. We still haven't fully filled this gap. We have a gap to fill above, so we'll see if Tesla can try to bounce or not. But I also went over supports just in case this thing turns, because you never know what the market and the news. So be prepared for either direction, but just know that the trend is still favoring the bulls a bit more on Tesla, SPY, QQQ, Apple, and all these other tickers. All right, guys, watch your levels, do what you have to do, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks again, and peace out.